Hey everybody, how are ya? Hello from Arizona and Brazil and Kansas and Australia and the whole world's right here. First of all, do tell me if everything's good. If you can hear me, if you can see me. I'm getting a lot of little weird little warnings from the system saying, oh, you've got some overloading happening. So if you can hear me, that's great. If you can see me, that's good. Oh, everyone says yes, hearing sounds and sights and everything. Wow, this is a real international crew we got going on here. South Africa and Canada and Poland and Australia and all over the place. Awesome. So I have a new little setup here, which I'm very happy with now. So as long as it's working, it's good. I've got little lights and my little microphone on a new arm. And, I've got the light in the back, which looks very nice. And anyway, thanks for joining me here. I know this is a real sort of like impromptu, last minute kind of thing. But a lot of you had been saying, are you dead? So I thought, you actually haven't done like a proper video since like November or something. I've been doing these live streams as much as I can, which is not very much. But I thought, well, I'm gonna reappear here and tell everybody what's going on with the channel and with the game and with me and the state of role playing and all that stuff. So I wanted to open it up to everybody. I wanted to talk about anything you want to talk about. And I've got some questions from patrons and from YouTube channel members, so I will get to all of those. I'll try and prioritize. I will try to prioritize those things first, and we'll just sort of let the conversation flow where we're going. So. It is June the 15th. Happy Father's Day to everybody, by the way, who has reason to celebrate such a thing. My own papa, he's been dead a long time, so there's not much reason for me to celebrate that. But a lot of my friends are fathers, and a lot of my friends have fathers, so to those of you who are celebrating, happy Father's Day. Very important job. I've often said that parenting is the number one job in the world. It all starts with there, so my applause and plaudits? My plaudits? I don't know if that's the right word. My my condolences, my congratulations, and my thanks for those of you who are raising kids in a good way. So hello to all of you. Okay, so let's see. Before I get to the questions, I just want to give kind of a general state of the union kind of thing. So season 4, those of you who have been watching it or had been watching it up until it went in hiatus sometime back in September or something. Season 4 ended, I think, at episode 10, right at a crux point, which kind of was leading into the climax, I think. Again, the dice will always tell the story, but it really feels like we're racing towards the end. It was a weird place to have a hiatus because, it's like right before Luke is about to fly towards the Death Star, you say, come back in 3 months. So it's a bit of an odd thing. But that said, I am finishing it. I've been rewatching all the seasons to get back into, remembering what the hell happened on the show. And it is funny because as I'm watching season 4, I have to fast forward through all the system parts. Because for those of you who don't know, I did this grand experiment where I thought, okay, I'm going to use season 4 as a playtest ground. I'm going to playtest my game that I'm developing as I go. Well, that sounded really smart. Yeah, it wasn't so smart. It wasn't so smart because the game now is so completely different from the game in episodes 1, 2, 3, 4 that it bugs me because I'm still tweaking the system as we go. I will be right up until the day we send it to the printers, and probably after that too, let's face it. But at some point you got to let it go. But I'm tweaking it every single day, and I look at this now and I think I can't in good conscience tell somebody, say to somebody, hey, if you want to see what the Broken Empires RPG is, go to season 4, because a lot of it is not at all accurate. The core principles of it are still there. The ideas of it are there. The general conflict arenas and the general ideas of what is important in this game and all that kind of stuff. But like, for example, initiative and combat has gone completely differently now, right? At the beginning, I was trying a phase system, and it just didn't quite work for me. So I went back to something a little more classic. So much has changed. The way the magic works changed. Again, same general concept. It's very free form and, you mix the verb and the noun, kind of like Ars Magica. You do all that kind of cool stuff. But the details, the devil's in the details, and it's all different. So it's weird when I watch season 4 now, as I'm doing to prepare for continuing the show. I get frustrated because I'm looking at this show going, that's not how the rules are, and I've got so many versions of the game in my head. It's really hard to keep straight what the current one is. So brutal. Anyway. Oh, Shatjar says the video's getting laggy. Is that just you or is that everyone else? Because I know I talk a lot with my hands and that can contribute. I'm going to try and keep my hands down here. That's not going to last very long. I'm a very hands talker. Anyway, so yeah, that's the thing I'm doing with season 4. I am moving towards finishing it. I'm guessing that season 4 will be 1 to 2 episodes left. I'm guessing. Could be wrong, but that's what I'm assuming. So I'm moving up towards that. I'm getting ready to go. I borrowed a bunch of terrain and scenery from. Oops, I had a little thing here. I borrowed a bunch of scenery. Sorry, I had a little weird YouTube crash here. Let me know if you guys are still with me. Are we still here? Everyone's still here? Just make sure. Okay, cool. Very laggy. I don't know what's going on here. Weird. Okay, well, we will hope that the audio is good at least. All right, let's see. Let me get back to where I'm going. Here, I need this, and I need this, and I need that. Okay. All right, so I borrowed a bunch of terrain from Nightwatch Games here in San Antonio, and I've had it for like a year, and I really need to get it back to Pork, the owner. So before I can do that, I need to finish the damn show. So that's what I am trying to do. So that is the state of season 4. I will be finishing it come hell or high water, and that'll be that. Now, when people talk about season 5, I say, go away. Don't talk to me. That is a gargantuan prospect that I'm too burnt out to even consider it right now. I have been working every hour of every day, pretty much, on the Broken Empires role-playing game, which I know a lot of you are here to talk about because a lot of you are backers, and thank you for your support. We did very well in the Kickstarter back in October. There was like 5,000 of you that helped support the game. So lots of learning going on with that. And as well, of course, we've had a lot of delays because of tariffs and art issues and all kinds of stuff like this. But it all is moving forward, and it's very exciting. It looks really, really good. My guys are working on the design, are finalizing the layout design right now. And I got to say, I got a proof of some sections of the travel chapter yesterday. It's pretty good. It's pretty slick, I have to say. It looks like a real game. So that's cool. And we're working on the character sheet, the official character sheet right now. We had released a version of the at that time the official character sheet months and months ago, I think before the Kickstarter. But now, of course, the game's changed so much that the character sheet's almost useless. So we had to redo it, and it looks awesome. Very, very excited about that stuff. So, the game is in great shape, and as you can see on the screen, you can still pre-order. So the Kickstarter itself is over, but we are taking pre-orders right up until the time that we have to send the shipment off to get printed. So, I don't want to start by talking about tariffs and all that kind of nonsense because that's just very frustrating. That's a very frustrating topic, but it's an important one. Okay, so let me first of all answer the questions from my patrons here. So first of all, John Warner. Hey, Trevor, is there a firm date for release of the PDF for backers? I know you guys were shooting for the end of summer, but my gaming group is champing at the bit. Well done. Most people say chomping. Well done. Champing at the bit it is. And I just keep telling them to wait until the end of summer. We're so excited for this game. Thank you, good sir. There is not a firm There's not a firm date for release of the PDF. I had said from the beginning that I would release the PDF the same day that we sent the files to the printers. Because of the delays with the tariffs and with the whole situation, I think that schedule has changed a bit. We are planning to release the PDFs as soon as we can, as soon as it is finished. which will be soon. We are still hoping for the end of summer to get you those PDFs. And also because we're pushing the schedule, it's not going to be everything. Like what I'm talking about early release, I'm talking about the core rule book. I'm not talking about the starter set or the additional adventures like the Dwarven Cataclysm or the Vikskrat adventure. Or anything like that. I'm talking about the main core book, which is about 500 pages of pure awesome. So that is the focus right now, and that's what we're trying to get out first. Things change, though. Our timeline with the starter set is good. It's moving a lot faster than I had thought, which is great. So it's possible you might get the starter set at the same time, or slightly later, or not. I don't know. I can't make those promises. I don't know. We have a big bottleneck with art right now. We're waiting for artists to send us stuff. They're awesome, and they're moving as fast as they can, but they are just human. Yes, we are still using humans. And so those humans take time, and those humans need to be given instruction and to do redos and to do adjustments and things. So all of this takes time. Yeah, that's the hope that you will. I mean, you will definitely have it this year in 2025. But my fingers are crossed you'll have it by the end of August. That may be too ambitious with the schedule. I'm not sure. I will keep everybody obviously updated with the monthly updates that we do. So, and speaking of monthly updates, something that's going in the next one, which I forgot to bring with me. Scott Doherty, who is or is it Doherty? I'm not sure how you pronounce your last name, Scott. Scott is a Scottish artist. He is also known as Venger of Venger's Maps. I've used Venger's Maps on the Dragonbane solo playthrough I did on the channel. He does great stuff, and he is providing battle maps for the game. But he also wrote a book whose name totally escapes me. I'm going to have to grab it. But it's basically about embracing chaos in the game as a GM and allowing your players full agency. And he asked me to write the foreword for it. So I did. Because when I read his book, I was like, oh yeah, this guy GMs just like I do. So he said, well, you write the foreword. So I did. And now you can buy it on Amazon. So look at that. I'm sort of a published author, just hitchhiking on his wagon there. But it's doing pretty good. It's really cool. It's a great resource if you're a GM. So check that one out, and I will get the name. If anybody knows the name of the book, please put it in the chat, because I'm stupid and I can't remember it. And of course, I meant to bring it in with me before I started, but then I got sidetracked by shiny baubles. Okay. So many questions. Let's go to Paul Martin here, another patron. Oh, this is fantastic. I'm very interested in the game design process, specifically around playtesting. Do you have any tips or advice on how to playtest well? Group selection, gathering feedback, scenario design specifically to test things, how long to do it before you go crazy, etc. Paul, excuse me, that is a great question, a fantastic question. This is a process that I was largely unfamiliar with. I had never designed a game before, not at this level. So playtesting was always something that was very, very casual, right? This was the first time I had to do it for real. And let me tell you, playtesting is not playing the game. Playtesting is work. When I sit down to playtest the game, whether I'm GMing it or playing in it, because I do play in it as well, it's a nightmare. There's no fun. It's no fun because you're not just relaxing into the game and enjoying the processes and playing a character and rolling dice. No, you're agonizing over every little rule. You're just making sure, like, is this right? Does that work? And every time someone asks something, I'm referencing rules and going back and forth and comparing to make sure that the version is correct. It's nightmarish. But to answer your question, any tips or advice on how to playtest well? Well, yes. First of all, you're not actually playing the game, you're playtesting. That's a different thing. Your job is to rip the system apart and look for mistakes. I bring on for my playtests people who are, they're all great gamers, but I really want to bring on system heads and min-maxers. Mostly because I want these guys to find the flaws. So my friend Dan, he's an engineer, he's a finance guy, he's got math brain. He helps us playtest, and he helps us with numbers and balancing issues and stuff. But I told him, I gave him the book, and I said, find the problems and wreck it. Wreck this game. Find the holes in it, find the flaws, and let me know. Luckily, He didn't find any flaws. He found a few things that we could tweak, absolutely, and that was awesome. But he didn't actually find any foundational flaws, so that was a huge, huge relief. Now, there's a bunch of other people working on the playtesting as well, so if there were any foundational flaws, one would assume by now, after a year, somebody would have found it, including me. But my eyes are actually not reliable anymore, because like I said, I've got 80 versions of this game in my head. So as a playtester, I'm more reliant on the outsiders, especially people who are not super familiar with the game. That's hugely useful because they're seeing it for the first time, or the second time, third time, whatever. So they don't know it backwards and forwards like I do. And their opinion is super valuable because they're going to see things that I just take for granted. My friend Travis, who is also helping with the game, he said to me, you have to be careful. He said, you as a GM, he's one of my players. He said, you as a GM, you're able to carry so many different rule sets in your head at one time, but not everybody can do that. So he said, sometimes you have to kind of dumb it down a bit. And I was like, no, never learn the rules. But he's not wrong, right? So playtesting is interesting because it makes you rethink about your presentation, or makes you rethink your presentation sometimes and think, okay, well, is this clear? It's clear to me, but is it clear to these people? And there's a lot, man. There's a lot. Feedback is super important. There's different ways to do that. I'm very informal with my feedback just because I have a very tight group of people, and there's not that many of them. There's like 6 or 7 of them. So when they give me feedback, we got a Discord chat and we go back and forth, and I'll say, hey, I've got this new idea for incorporating a shield bash combat maneuver. And in fact, that just happened this morning. And so we've been hashing it back and forth. So that's where the bulk of our work gets done. But then when we sit down for our weekly Zoom playtests, that stuff really gets torn apart and put back together again. So it's frustrating, but it's hugely useful, and it makes for a much better game. How long do you do it before you go crazy? This is the thing, man. And I think I've said this before, but this is absolutely true. Designing a game is just like any work of art. Listen to me, work of art. But it is any creative endeavor. When I look at the RPGs on my shelf now, what I don't see is a bunch of finished games that were play tested completely and never shown to the public until they were absolutely perfect. No, because that never happens. As an artist, as a creator, with anything, you are never finished. You only choose at what point to stop working on it and release it to the public. So how do you know when you've tested enough? You've never tested enough. It's never done. There's always improvements, but at some point you got to go, you know what, guys? We got to release this thing. It's about as good as I can get it right now. And perfection is the enemy of the good. There's Laura Alexander, who just said perfection is the enemy of getting stuff out there. Exactly. Anyway, that's a great question, man. That's fantastic. Paul, it would be interesting to hear a little contrast between pure magic or weave magic in the game and clerical magic or divine magic. Sure, I can give you a little breakdown. The effects of divine magic are kind of similar sometimes, maybe, to the effects of weave magic, but they're handled completely differently. Someone casting weave magic, they have a skill. They have a skill in the bind and the strand, and they put those things together, and they create an effect that way, and they tailor the effect. They craft the spell. They figure out the effect itself. They figure out its magnitude, its range, its duration, the targets, all of that stuff. And then they make a roll, and they apply their SLs, and yada, yada, yada. If you're a priest, if you're godbound, you do none of that. You don't even know what your piety number is. Your piety number is hidden from you. You don't know whether you're in good with your god or not. There's a rule in the game that says that once the piety gets down to about 30, the GM's supposed to have the god give a little vision, a little nudge to the cleric, like, hey, buddy, you better pick it up here. Or conversely, if their piety is super high, they get a little, hey, buddy, good on you, keep going. Anyway, every time a cleric, we don't even use that word, but every time a godbound asks for an intercession from their god, because that's what they're doing. They're saying, help me. Help me in this situation. The god decides how to help them. But the godbound still rolls his piety, even though he doesn't know what his piety score is. He has some control over it because he can use a holy symbol, which is going to help him and stuff like this. But basically, the result of that piety roll, in addition to what he's asking for and who the target is, will determine, and also the divine. I can't think of the word right now. The divine realm that the god oversees. All of those things come into play, and then there's a list of suggested powers for the GM to look at, and based on the level of that miracle, right, like how well the roll was, the GM can apply that. So it's very, very, very in the hands of the GM to adjudicate, but there's a solid structure in which to do that. So you're not just domain. Thank you, Shetjar. Domain, yes. Divine and full cat, yes. Thank you. It's very much up to the GM to determine that, but it is based on the structure of that roll. I love this. Because I'm a GM that likes making stuff up in the moment. So that's a big deal. And I also, as a player, I love the idea, and I've talked about this before, I love the idea that as a Godbound, I never know how good I am with my God. So I have to continuously work towards fulfilling, the God's wishes, not my own. Because when you fulfill the God's wishes, you gain piety. So it's very cool. Quick addressing your question, Nigel. How would that work if playing solo? Like anything else. So if you want to know, if you're playing a Godbound solo, and you ask your god for something, you make the piety roll. But it's just like anything else, right? Because when you're playing solo, you're both player and GM. So you're wearing both those hats at the same time. So at that point, you know what the god's divine domains are, just like a player of any Godbound would. He would know what types of things his god can give him. If you're worshiping Elosia, the goddess of healing and the hearth and stuff like that, she is not going to send down balls of fire against your enemies. That's not in her realm. So you know that. So basically, you make your roll, and then you can either decide what is appropriate, you'd put the GM hat on, or you can roll on the random tables, right? You can roll on the solo random tables like you would everything else. So that's how that work. So it is very, very different. Now, again, the effects can vary wildly, but there is a structure for it. Originally, we had it so that the clerics turned out to be, they were just kind of lesser spellweavers because they could do kind of the same things, and I wasn't happy with that. So this new way of doing it is very, very cool. It keeps Godbound on their toes because they are constantly working towards advocating for the gods' ideas and stuff. Okay, Stephen Benham, I was wondering if you were going to release a pre-generated character sheets for Simon, Edbert, etc. with the game release. So yes, we are. Now, I wanted to, in the original version of this, I think I made an announcement a long time ago, about in the starter set adventure, it was going to feature Simon, Edbert, and Arn. That was that was a long time ago, and things have changed. So the way that, Ticker Plays, got a dash. Thanks. Thank you, sir, or ma'am, or whoever you are. Thank you. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I wanted the starter set to be, or at least you would have the option of playing those characters, and it would kind of take place in a spot during season 1, so it would fit canonically within the greater storyline. And I still might do that in another adventure, but it's not going to work for the starter adventure. That said, I did promise you pre-gens of those characters, so you will have those. Now, I don't know whether they will be in the starter set or whether they'll be just available as like a download on the website or something. But yes, you will definitely have access to it. No questions asked. James Wood, down from South Africa. There's a bunch of South Africans on today, I think. Have you considered making a behind-the-scenes video sharing your process for the channel? I would love to see how you approach your filming setup and the post-production process. Well, I did a video for the patrons, and I think for the YouTube members as well. I try and make those accessible for both, about editing. And it was long. It was like an hour and a half of me going through an editing process, which turned out pretty cool, actually. I've done some videos on my production setup, although not any recent ones with the main setup. So I'm still hoping to do that. I had said that if I get like 500 paying patrons that I would do that. I haven't got there yet. So I'm still waiting for that to happen, and then I'll actually do that. So there you go, little bait the hook. Steel the Warrior. I'm excited to hear more about the system. I'm especially excited about learning more about how all of the magics work. Yeah, the magic is pretty cool. As I mentioned before, Weave Magic is about crafting an effect. So here's the reality. When you're making a fantasy role-playing game, if you have magic, there's a reason why. There's a reason why most designers have spell lists. There's a reason. Because magic, by its very definition, can be anything, right? It can be, you can do anything. So you have to put limitations on it, and it's easiest to just do that by having spell lists. To say, oh, you know these 5 spells do these very specific things. Well, I see the utility in that, but I don't want that for this game. What I wanted is, no, you are trained in harnessing certain aspects of the weave, and you can combine those aspects to achieve pretty much anything that the laws of magic allow you to. So it's not a wish-granting machine. You can't say, I want to fly to the moon. There are certain rules called the bounded laws of magic that you cannot break. For example, magic can be used to heal a wound, but it cannot bring the dead back from the life. It can't bring the dead back to life. Can't do that. Magic can make you go faster in combat, but it can't actually affect time. It can't make time slow down or anything like that. So many things like that. In order to limit the scope of what magic can do. Because if you have just a wish-granting machine, then you have no system. Basically, if you can do everything, then there is no system because you can just do whatever you want. So that doesn't work. It has to be limited. And that is why we have magic skills and the binds and the strands and things like this. Because, first of all, it gives the player something to look forward to as they build their character and as they get better at things and they become more powerful. They can control more and more mighty magic. But in terms of the effects themselves, it's very much up to the player and the GM to craft it based on the structure that we provide. And I've got all kinds of stuff in the game about, at some point, this is a game where you can't be a rules lawyer in this game. You can't do it because the rule is always going to be do whatever works best for you guys. It's always going to be that, right? I have very specific rules for magic and combat and travel, but in the end, anybody, any of you at your table could just go, you know what? I don't think this works. I don't think invisibility is going to be a thing in our version of the Broken Empires. Okay, done. Easy, right? Now, there's going to be implications of that, right? But that's your game. You have to decide that stuff. And it's not necessarily designed to be a GM putting on the Viking hat saying, this is the way it shall be and you must do it. Obviously it's designed for conversation to happen between the spell casting players and the GMs to come up with something that is satisfying to both. But in the end, there are rules, and there's rules to keep things, sane. All right, let's just make sure there's no other. Oh, here we go. Delatar Teps. Another patron. Just want to know if you're getting enough sleep. Looking forward to Broken Empires and more Season 4. I am not getting enough sleep. No. Trying. Not happening. Terry Heron, who I will see at Gen Con this year, I'm sure. Have you finished catching up on Season 4? Not yet. Getting there. I do it at the gym, but I can only do it on I can only do it on cardio days because I take my phone and I go and I walk at a 10% incline at 3.5 miles an hour and I watch the whole show. That's what I do. But if I'm doing like interval training or if I'm doing weights, I can't do it. So I am catching up slowly but surely. Okay. All right, well, that is it currently for the patron questions. All right, let me scroll up here and see what we got. There's a bunch. Hey, here we are. I got to scroll up to see what I missed. All this stuff. We had some lagginess. My ear trumpet has been struck by lightning. Has sent a gift membership. Thank you for doing that. Huzzah. Huzzah, huzzah. All right, where are we? Champing, not chomping. Yes. Liz H says, just found your channel a few days ago, and I'm loving the adventure so far with Simon. So glad to see you're still here. Well, you have I envy you. You have a large story ahead of you to enjoy. Daniel B says, can't rush good art. Unfortunately, that is true. That is true. Okay. Oh, Laura, or something. There it is. Venger's Guide to Mastering Chaos at the Table. And I saw that Venger himself is actually here, right? Hello, sir. How are you, sir? Do tell me how to pronounce your last name. Is it Doherty, or something else? Let me know. Let me know in the comments below. Hello from Portugal, says Mind the Comics. Awesome, awesome. Alana, could you explain a normal day of working on the system? I dream of someday working full-time on mine, so I'm curious how it looks for you. It looks like it's exhausting, is what it looks like. A normal day? A normal day? I don't know if there's such thing as a normal day. I never stop working on it. I still literally wake up at 4 a.m, after having gone to bed at 2, going, wait a minute, I think I need to change the rise from prone penalty for male body armor. Yeah, as in chainmail bottle, not male versus female body armor. Stuff like that. It happens all the time, and it's constant. So a normal day is, well, let me give an example. I was trying to take some time off yesterday. I was having a lovely bath, and just trying to relax. And I was reading this awesome book that takes place in France at the height of the Black Plague. It's called Between Two Fires, I think. It's awesome. But as I'm reading it, this fight breaks out. And as he's describing, the author is describing the fight, I suddenly start to think, wait a minute, could I do this in my game? And I start to think, well, I can do all of this. Oh, except for this thing. I can't do that. Why can't I do that? And then I'm off the races going, how can I fit? So it never ends. It's constant. It's a nightmare. But eventually I'm going to have to stop and just say, okay, there it is. And then any further ideas I have will have to come out in an advanced player's guide in a couple of years or something. Which, depending on how well the book does, is something I could do. Which would be pretty good. Pretty. Oh, yes, Vengeance Dex is here. Howdy from a bonny Scotland. All right. Tigger Plays says, I playtested Max of Nyarlathotep and Horror on the Orient Express, like the original. Oh, you've left. You can't answer me. Yes, you want to think very carefully at every stage what does or doesn't work, not just for your group, but others, and document it. Yep, exactly. Okay. I'm trying to catch up here. Trying to catch up. Shachar, how relevant are the videos you released 8 months ago about the different systems of the game? So I addressed this earlier, I think. If you go back, you can hear me talk about that. You can still watch the videos because they're fun. And, mostly you'd be watching it for the story rather than the system. The details of the system are not the same, but the general concept is. So, for example, in episode 3, I think, 3 or 4, Vale is at the Vizier's ball. And she's doing an investigation. And in that episode, I introduced the concept of the timer die, which is, she can only do so much before she's discovered or something goes wrong. So that concept is still the same in the game. There's still timer dies. In fact, there's lots of places where timer dies come up. But the details of how it works are different from what you see in the show. So that's why it's hard for me to watch it, because, again, I'm trying to keep my brain locked on only the current version of the rules. It's not a very good learning tool. If you're watching episode 1 going, hey, I want to know how combat works, you're going to get a general idea of the feel of it, but the details are all going to be completely different. So, that's the reason why I kind of regret doing this. I regret, doing the show as a playtesting experiment, because it didn't really turn out as well as I wanted in terms of that, as its usefulness. So, anyway, whatever is fine. All right. David Spake, channel member, helped playtest Rollmaster Unified. Oh my. Learned you need a strong lead with a fixed vision in order to do it right. That release drug on for a decade. Yeah, that is absolutely true. Writing collaborations often create enemies out of friends. Not always, but they often do. And I have found, and this is not just from this game, this is from my entire history in showbiz and in creative writing, all things creative, you do absolutely need a vision. You need someone at the top who is the yes person, who says, this is what we're doing, that is not what we're doing. In the end, creation by committee is a muddled mess that rarely works. You have to have project lead. You have to have the guy who says yes or no, right? Hugely important. Now, in this case, it's me, of course, but that doesn't mean that I don't listen to every suggestion that my team brings me, because they'll say something and I'll immediately go, no, that doesn't work. No, that goes against what I thought. But then I'll think about it, and then I'll come back the next day and go, you know what? No, you're totally right. And then I'll change it. But yeah, you have to have someone to make the final call for sure. Okay, all right. Yes, I'm alive. Burke asks, what percentage of the game is done? Well, it depends what you mean by done. What percentage of the game is finished and playable? 100%. What percentage of the game is viewable by wow, rented lips. What percentage of the game is viewable by you? 0% right now, but that is going to quickly change. Again, to reiterate, we're doing the final layouts now. It's looking awesome, and once that happens, we'll be able to hopefully get it to you ahead of schedule. That's what we're hoping for. All right. Winter says, talking about the Godbounds and the domains, I would love to not know what in the world is going to happen at a crucial moment. One of my GMs did that with my Paladin once. It was epic. Yeah! I mean, being in the dark is exciting and terrifying, and that's what I like my games to be. Exciting and terrifying. All right. Gian Franken, how rules light will this be when it is finished? No, not at all. It will never be rules light. And I said from the beginning, this is not a rules light game. A lot of people heard the term sim light and assumed that light meant rules light. It does not. Sim light means simulation light, which means it is a simulationist game, but pulled back a little bit. So it is firmly in the rules medium category, not rules heavy. It's not a crazy heavy game. It may look like that when you look at it, but just as you could look at a game like Harnmaster, okay? When you look at Harnmaster for the first time, and I'm not talking about the new version that just got released this year, or last year, or whenever it was. I'm talking about Harnmaster 3, the one I'm really familiar with. When you look at Harnmaster, you think, oh, this is obviously a document from the IRS. It's very intimidating. What the hell does this mean? But as soon as you learn it, and as soon as you go through it 2 or 3 times, like 2 or 3 sessions, you just internalize those things, and it's nothing. It moves like butter. It moves super smooth. That's kind of like my game. When you look at it, if you're coming from a rules light game, this is going to blow your mind. You're going to go, oh my God, how do you even do anything? Patience, read, experiment, internalize, and it will all flow like water. Or maybe it's not your thing, which is perfectly fine too. God knows there's enough rules light games out there that you can try it. There's a bazillion rules light games. This is not it. This game is designed to cater to an audience that wants a little more meat on the bones. Not a ton of meat on the bones. Not Phoenix Command here. We're not doing, okay, you want to fire your bow, well then we have to check the airspeed about how it's going to change the velocity of the arrow and the arc of its trajectory. We're not doing any of that. But it's not rules light. It's not, I roll an D20 and I win the role-playing game. No, it's not that. It is solidly rules medium. And it is quite the tome. It's 500 pages. Now, that's a lot of that setting. I'd say probably a good 30, 40 pages. Yeah, 30, 40 pages. I can't say that for sure, but it's setting. But then, like magic takes up a lot, but magic takes up a lot in every game. Like almost every RPG I have, if it's a fantasy game, easily half that book is magic. Right? Because it's spell lists. My game isn't spell lists, although there's a bunch of example spells to help people figure things out. Anyway, so no, definitely not a rules light game. That is not what sim light means. It means simulation light. Edins, does casting the spells deplete some piety? Oh, as in asking for the miracles. Because casting spells is weave magic. Asking for a miracle is divine magic. And the answer is yes. Every time you ask your god for help, your piety depletes a little bit. Your goodwill depletes. And so you have to please your god by performing acts of service. And that'll depend on what the church is and who the god is. But yes, it absolutely does. Like rolling a critical piety roll, you don't suffer any piety loss. Rolling a critical fail is really bad. Asking and failing, yeah, it costs you a little bit. Because, you're bugging the god. Hey, help me. Hey, help me. Help me, God. Help me. So it does deplete your piety. Yes, for you. Purview, Jason SHD says, yes, that's the word I was thinking of. The god's purview. Thank you. Only like half an hour later. Okay. Oh, and Laura explains to Jan, yes, rules light does not mean it's light on rules. And I just reviewed it today, so there you go. Okay. Oh, Red Fox Lady in the Netherlands. Hello. Hello. Jamie Cage says, I can't roll my R's. Can I still use Carlos as an NPC? Carlos, does he roll his R's? I mean, sometimes I suppose he rolled his R's. Not too much, occasionally. I would say that the rolling of the R's is a slightly different accent than the one that Carlos had. But still, yes, the answer is, of course, you can use Carlos as an NPC if you wish. If, we include him somehow. So, all right. Winter says, with the Me, Myself, and I finale with Simon, Edbert, and Arn, that was at the end of Season 3, is the purpose now so that players can take them from where you left off, or do you have ideas for their future? Right, so that was something that we discussed. So as I said before, I'd originally thought it would be cool to have the starter set adventure take place during Season 1, where you could play all of those characters. And the reason why I picked Season 1 is because, A, there was a large gulf of time as they were traveling that I thought, it would be really cool to have a little adventure happen in that time, in between episodes, so to speak. But the other thing was, at that time, they were still beginning level characters, largely, right? If I did a starter set adventure with those characters at the end, they would be way too powerful for a starter mission. Because, they've got all these things and skills and abilities and items and stuff. So I still want to do it, though. I still want to be able to have those characters use a canonically correct timeline adventure at some point. It's still in the back burner, but yes, you will be able to download those characters, or they'll be included in the starter set. We haven't decided yet. Okay. Greetings from Colombia. Thank you, Catalina. Jorg or Jorge, perhaps. Jorg, you got me into solo RPG. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. You're very, very welcome. Oh, Vox Arcana. Quick question. Are there any prospects of continuing your solo gameplay in smaller formats? Like your two Dragonbane videos, etc. Yes, there are. I am going to do, I know this isn't quite what you're asking, but I will answer your question. I'm going to do a series of videos that we unlocked as part of the Kickstarter, which is like a tutorial series for the Broken Empires. So I will go through and I will explain in great detail, and I will sort of play through certain situations. It is tutorial, though. It's not dramatic. It's tutorial. And I will go through and I will show you how everything works, so that it's easier. Dave Thalmavor, who was helping me test one of the adventures last year, I had sent him and Professor DM and Kelsey Dion. They were my playtester group at that time for that particular adventure, and I'd sent them a little half an hour quick tutorial video. Here's the breakdown of the game. Here's basically how to use it. And Dave said that was the greatest thing ever. He said every game should come with this. So I went, well, okay, when we do the Kickstarter, then I will, if we raise a certain amount, then I will create these tutorial videos. So those are definitely on the agenda. But what you're asking about is continuing your solo gameplay in smaller formats, like the 2 Dragonbane videos. Yes, absolutely. I want to go back to all kinds of stuff on the channel. I want to go back to the miniature games like Rangers of Shadow Deep and 5 Leagues from the Borderlands and all that stuff, and I want to do one-offs with maybe Forbidden Lands or maybe Shadow of the Demon Lord or whatever. I want to do more featureless Great Plain episodes where I specifically focus on the combat systems of these games. So yes, I want to get that. I can't do any of that until I finish the Broken Empires. That's just, it's taking all of my brain. But that day is soon coming. That day is soon to come. Steel the Warrior also hates spell lists. And the game I'm working off Ars Magica as well. So knowing you're doing something similar is so interesting to me. Yeah, Ars Magica is great. Super, super great game. Okay. Chronic Toast says you have been diving headlong into Savage Worlds as a direct result of the first series. That's awesome. Savage Worlds was still one of my favorite games. I love it. I love Savage Worlds. So much fun. Want to run a game again at some point. All right. Lost my place. Give me a second. Oh, here we go. Yes, I will. Yes, Terry, see you at Gen Con. Yeah, I will be at Gen Con again this year. at the end of July, beginning of August. I'm doing a panel on the Broken Empires. I'm going to talk about the game, and I'm going to, maybe, run the room through a little solo version of it. We'll see. We'll see how many supplies I have to do that properly. And otherwise, I'll be hanging out at the Columbia Games booth, as I always do, and I'll be, I might be crashing a couple of other people's panels, too. We'll see. We'll see. All right. So... Yes, when will the PDF be available? I answered that at the beginning of the thing. Alka says, are you still doing voice acting gigs? Yes, absolutely. I'm still working away as a professional voice actor. I work all the time, thankfully, for as long as AI lets me. So I just keep going, keep my head down, keep going forward. Red Fox Lady, when do you expect the Broken Empires to be finished and sent? Expect, I don't know. I hope we're still on schedule. I hope that we can send it and have it in your hands by October, November. But again, the two main bottlenecks are the art, which we have very little control over, and the tariffs, which we have no control over. But I suspect the tariff thing has settled down a little bit now, so I suspect that the number it's at now still sucks because it's about 30% more than we were all used to paying. But, that's going to impact the project for sure. It's going to impact all of us. But it's survivable. So we should be okay, but you never know, man. These are crazy times we live in. All right. Sam says, hello, I found your channel looking for a live play of Ironsworn. The season with Ironsworn, which was season 2, was super incredibly epic, master level RP. Well, thank you, Sam. Thank you. Glad you liked it. Okay. Oh, Magnus says, Between Two Fires, reading that now. Yeah, it's awesome. It's super dark. It's super dark. I mean, like I said, it takes place in medieval France at the height of the Black Plague, and it starts with the potential, molestation of a little girl. That's in the first page, that's what happens. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, and our main character stops it from happening. But it's just amazing. It's amazing that you're like, oh my God, where are we going with this? But it is so good. It's very stressful. It's stressful to read. It's kind of horror fantasy in a way. It's very cool. Chris Nyozi, hey man, I haven't seen you forever. I am doing okay. I hope you are too. Oh, Miguel, what is the last idea you decided to discard and why for the Broken Empires? Oh boy. Well, okay, this is going to be a little in the weeds here. This morning, I added a combat maneuver in the game called Shield Bash, which allows people who are armed with a shield to be able, if circumstances afford them the opportunity, it allows them to knock an enemy prone regardless of where they hit them. Okay, again, I don't want to get too in the weeds here because I'll wind up explaining the whole combat system here. And I don't want to take the time to do that right now, but the issue was I had originally said, you should have the option of knocking somebody prone or stunning them briefly like they got their head impaired. And I looked at that and I immediately said, nope, it's not going to work because the impairment of the head effect is far too powerful because the only way you can do that is if you hit someone in the head and they roll the wound die and it comes up this way, blah, 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 blah. So it was just one of those things where I went, no. It can't be that. It's just got to be the prone thing. So I ran that by my team and they looked at it. They ran the numbers and said, yep, that's cool. Works great. So yeah, that's how that works. That just today I discarded something. Chronic Axe, any news on the solo system? How's the work from Tana and Sean coming along? It's done. The solo system is done, and in the book, it is very, very, very much like Mythic because I love Mythic. I know Mythic. I'm very familiar with Mythic. Tana did the lion's share of the work on that. Sean was a consultant. He was a vital consultant, but it was Tana that did most of the actual labor on that, with my input, obviously, and with my assistance. But yeah, it's very Mythic, but it's very tailored to the Broken Empires, and there's specific subsystems in there that are very specific to the Broken Empire. So if you know Mythic and you like Mythic, you will feel right at home with this particular system. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel with this. At the beginning, I was like, I want to do something totally different. We're going to roll 3d6 and flip a coin and draw a picture, whatever. And I just went in the end, you know what? It's not worth the time. ROTI. That's my little term. Return on time invested. It wasn't worth the time to invest in that. In the end, I wanted to go back with something that I knew and was comfortable because in the end, the game has to be liked by me. I have to like the game. I have to be able to know this game inside and out, right? Yes, you have to like it too, but really, it starts with me. If I don't like it, that's not a good sign. So I do like it. Okay, Rob the Bear, will you expand content in the store? Yes, we are always expanding content. In fact, we just released the Loom of Fate on the store, so you can buy that as a pre-order. For those of you who haven't already included that with your orders in the Kickstarter, the Loom of Fate is basically a solo player's tool, but it's not just a solo player's tool. It's basically a tool for solo players and the GM to have all of those random tables that we use in the solo system to create things in the moment right at your fingertips as a separate supplement, so you don't have to go flipping back and forth between the pages when the player suddenly says, I want to suddenly take this wild radical left turn and go down here and do this thing that you never thought of. Now you've got those tools, you can just go, oh, okay, roll a couple times on that, and boom, away you go. So that is available now, but we are adding content on the store. Excuse me, we're trying to add something new every couple weeks. Right now, it's just stuff from the Kickstarter, but eventually there will be brand new stuff. So thebrokenempires.rpg.com, check it out. Chris just did a con with Maddie and Sam last weekend, and we talked mad shit about you. Well, that's awesome. I hope it was all good. All right. Adala, how is the whiff factor from playtest? The whiff factor, we don't really experience it a lot. This is not like Warhammer 4th Edition, for those of you who know that. Warhammer 4th Edition tried to... Warhammer 1st Edition was famous for the whiff, which means I roll and I fail, right? That's all that means. Warhammer 2nd Edition was also not very good with the whiff. And the reason why... Well, there's lots of reasons why, but the principal reason why is because when you started as a character in Warhammer, your skills were terrible. It was a Demon Hunter system, but your skills started like 35, 40, which meant every time you tried to hit a guy with your sword, you're going to miss most of the time. And it becomes kind of a comedy of errors. You get all of these characters running around missing all the time. Fun for a while, but gradually becomes annoying. So in my game... to finish the thought about Warhammer 4. Warhammer 4 tried to fix the problem by making every roll opposed, which I like, and then by saying there's always a winner and there's always something that happens, which is kind of the philosophy of Powered by the Apocalypse, right? There's always something that moves the quote-unquote story forward. So that's kind of the philosophy behind that. However, I don't like how they implement it. I don't like the math. Not because it doesn't work, just because it bugs me personally. So I don't like that. So what I have in my game is, if you have a starting character, their main skills are going to be good. They're going to be 70, right? Or around there. That's a solid thing. Now, also, you can do a little bonus hunting in certain situations, right? Like if you attack with surprise, you get plus 20. And, if you attack a guy who's prone, you get plus 20 and yada, yada, yada. However, there's a crucial difference in my game. Just because, to finish that thought, if you have a 70% chance of success, that means you have a 30% chance of missing. Yeah, that's the way it is. However, so it does happen. Yes, sometimes you miss. Yep, sometimes you miss. However, as I said, there's bonuses that you want to hunt for, tactical bonuses you want to hunt for to improve your chances of success. But also the way the game works, it's a blackjack system, which means it's not about rolling low, it's about rolling high. It's about rolling your skill or under, but high. The enemy is going to defend. So if I have a skill of 70 and I roll a 42, I have succeeded with 4 success levels because that's the 10's value, right? The opponent is going to defend. Now we're comparing success levels. So if the opponent rolls 53 on their 70 skill, if they have one, they got more success levels, so they shut that attack down. However, so that sounds very whiffy. That is not a very common outcome. What is a much more common outcome is that I will attack the enemy and I will get a decent hit, maybe 4 SLs, and they will get a piece of it. They'll roll like a 23, so they get a piece of it, which means now I succeeded by 2 SLs. 4 minus 2 is 2. So there is an effect. It's just not the big effect I would have got if they'd blown their parry entirely, right? So there is a whiff factor, but not in the same way there is in Warhammer, and it's not as pronounced. It does exist because if you can't ever fail a roll, then what's the point in rolling? And there's a new school idea about, that's why we don't like to roll to hit. We just like to roll for damage. I understand that, why that design is in place. I despise that design personally, but that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. So yeah, the real thing in my game, though, it's not so much what your skill is, although that's very important, right? If you've got a 70 skill, that's important. But what that tells you is that you've got a potential success level between 1 and, 10, actually, because a critical, which is doubles under, or rolling your skill exactly, gives you plus 3 SLs. So if I have a skill of 70 and I roll 70, that's the best I can roll. Because it's a critical, because I rolled my skill on the button, I rolled 7 SLs, but it's a critical plus 3, 10. So I would get 10 SLs. On the other end of that, I could roll a 0-3, and that's 1 SL because there's always a minimum of 1 SL. So that means that character with a skill of 70 has a range of 1 to 10 SLs. It's a big range, right? So just because you're an awesome swordsman doesn't mean you're going to hit great every single time. It's also based on what the opponent does. But that's where expertise comes in. Expertise is kind of a talent in the game, like a feat, that anybody can buy or achieve. And what expertise was it does is it bumps up your skills from the bottom. So if you have 1 level of expertise, it starts at 2. What does that mean? It means that whenever you roll a success on that skill, the minimum success levels you get is 2. So it goes all the way up to 4. You can buy it all the way up to 4. So if you have an expertise of 4 on a skill of 90, you are a very skilled fighter. Because even if you roll 23, your minimum SL is 4 because you've got expertise 4. So your range with a skill of 90 is between 4 and 12. Because again, if you roll 90, that's plus 3 SLs. 9 plus 3 is 12. So that's a very, very, and that is something that doesn't really exist in a lot of systems. None that I've seen. But it's a crucial thing to understanding what makes a skilled and experienced character. A lot of people in D100 base games just look at the skill number. He's got 60. Oh, he's okay. He's not that good. Yeah, but if he's got a 60 and an expertise of 3, he's really good. Yeah, he's still only got a 60% chance of hitting, but when he does, it's going to be a minimum of 3 SLs. So, little minutia, little look behind the curtain there. Okay, Old Uncle Mojo, what's the extent of the bestiary section? Do you cover most of the usual suspects of fantasy monsters? So there's about 50 entries in the bestiary section. That's inclusive of all the expansions we did because of the Kickstarter. Some of the usual suspects are in there, but the usual suspects are not the same as you might think. For example, a troll in the Broken Empires. A troll in the Broken Empires exists and is a bad monster and all that stuff. But a troll in the Broken Empires is, in fact, an ent that has lost its way, in a way of speaking. An elder tree, as we call it in this game. So little thing like that. Or my favorite, one of my favorites is the Highland Giant. The Highland Giant is big, scary monster, but if you sing to him in Dwarven, he will suddenly be overcome with memories because of the history of the giants and the dwarves. So there's little things like that. Super little cool things like that. Or like the origin of the orcs. There are no female orcs at all. There's only male orcs, and there's a reason for that. And a half-orc, which is something you can play in this game, because it's been established in the world and the show in Season 1. A half-orc is not an orc and some other species mated and had this child that grows up to be a half-orc, half-elf, or human or whatever. No. That's not what a half-orc means. A half-orc is a normal orc who has suddenly, there's like a switch that's gone off in its brain where now it's sort of removed from the bestial nature and the crazy, chaotic, evil nature of the orcs, and it's sort of like woken up and gone, I don't think this is right, guys. Anyway, so yes, we have the usual suspects, but they're all, they're like through a looking glass darkly. They're just a little strange. James, do you think you will do another season showing the game using the final rule set? Not another, well, I can't say no. Certainly, I'm going to do the next episodes of Season 4 using the final rule set. So those will be set. I hope. Jason says, it doesn't matter that you made changes because we were always going to do what we wanted anyway. True, so why even design the game? You're right. You know what? To hell with it. Project's off. I'm going home. I kid. Page count, 500 or so. Layout is very time-consuming, says Edens. Yes, it is, and I'm glad I'm not doing it. I'm glad that I have my guys who do that. Agrede. Question. Is there a con you're hoping to be at with a playable version for attendees? Yes, next year. We're not going to have the ability to do that until we have the books in our hands, and we don't yet. So we will have that by the end of the year. Here's hoping. It's going to be October. And once that happens, I can start looking at the convention schedule next year and take it to the games and show people and say, hey, this is the book, and set up a playtest or have other people do that for me, whatever the case is. So yeah, that is what we are hoping. A Pagan Perspective, missed you here on the channel. Hope to see a new Sages Library soon. Yeah, I was going to do one. I was just going to drop it out of the blue on, what was it? What game was it? I forget what game it was. But I didn't because I'm too busy. But I will. Yes, we'll go back to the Sages. No question. Can you go through a weave spell example from idea to damaged enemy? Whew, yeah, I can. Get back to me on that one. I want to get through some of these questions first. Tabletop. How does it compare to Mithras or Savage Worlds? Somewhere in between for crunch factor? Well, first of all, crunch is one of those words that people use that doesn't always mean what you... I don't think it means what you think it means. To me, when I hear crunch, I hear math. But a lot of people don't use crunch. A lot of people use the word crunch to mean rules. Like it's rules heavy, it's got crunch. That's not what I mean with crunch. When I use the word crunch, I mean math. So there is math in this game, but it's very simple. This is a rules medium game. Mithras or Savage Worlds, well, those are two diametrically opposed examples for many reasons. Mithras, I love Mithras. I love Savage Worlds. I love these games for totally different reasons. Mithras is super simulationist, hyper detailed. Love it. But it's just that too detailed for me. Hence, my system. I wanted a system like Mithras or Hornmaster that just dialed it back a little bit and pulled in some of the new school ideas to sort of make things a little more flowy. You know, use that term. Savage Worlds is wild and swingy and adventurous and pulp, and it's awesome. But this game is not that. This game, The Broken Empires, very much falls on the simulationist side of things. It's more gritty. It's more quote-unquote realistic, if you can say that about a game with magic and dragons. But if you are familiar with Mithras or Hornmaster or RuneQuest, because that's what Mithras is basically RuneQuest 6, you will be familiar with this. You'll go, oh, yeah. No, I get this. There's enough difference in it. It's not like some carbon copy. It's not like a clone. It's certainly not a Mithras clone. The Broken Empires is 40 years of my experience wrapped into one. It's taking all the features from all the games I like and trying to make them work together within one structure. And amazingly, that seems to work pretty good. So, James Wood, thoughts on making a series of videos for Rangers of Shadowdeep? Yes, 100%. That's on the table. Might even do it with a friend. We shall see. Shachar, I think you misunderstood my question. I was referring to the dedicated subsystem videos you made, not the season 4 videos. Yeah. Okay, I get you. So then yes, the answer is when those tutorial videos come out, they will absolutely be up to date. They will be the official videos. That's why I haven't done them yet. We talked about it in our last staff meeting. We talked about me doing the videos now, but I was like, I don't want to do them until I'm absolutely signed off on the final version of the rules. But once I do that, once the rules go out, that's it. Then those videos will be 100% official from me, from the creator. So yes, they will be excellent to learn the game from. In fact, that's the whole point. Chad Demink, would you recommend your game mechanics for a superhero genre? Nah, it's not for that. You'd have to mangle the magic system somehow, and there's way better games out there to do superheroes than this. Okay. But thank you for your question. Wow, okay. Gotta scale up again, scroll up. Here we go, back on track. Thoughts on Daggerheart? I have no thoughts on Daggerheart. I know the creators. That's my thoughts on Daggerheart. Somente Solo, shout out from Brazil. I've started playing solo because of your channel and started my own. Thanks for all the great entertainment. Awesome. Thank you. Best of luck to you and all your staff. Cool. Docherty. Thank you, Venger. Thank you. Docherty. I wasn't certain if it was Docherty or Doughty or Doherty or Doherty. I don't know, but now I know it's Docherty, so I shall endeavour to say it properly like that from now on. Docherty. That Scottish accent was the very first one I ever learned as a little kid. Love it. Okay. Garrett Bourne, you introduced me to solo play in Savage Worlds, which I have loved. Even my wife joined me on a couple of short campaigns. Thank you. Well, you are welcome. Okay. Thank you all. You all have very nice things to say. I appreciate it. Here's a good one. This is from Flynn. Any plans or thoughts for supplements to the Broken Empires? Yes, many and more. Providing the book sells. Providing the book does well. Because I can't produce anything unless I have seed money, and the only way I get seed money is by selling the books. So tell your friends if you like the game. If you don't like this kind of game, then don't bother, because it's not gonna help you. Let me check my patrons here, see if there's anything new. Terry, do you have any details on what the Gen Con presentation will be about, or will you just be talking in general terms? So originally what I wanted to do with the Gen Con presentation, and I'm still hoping to do this, is to basically run the room through a little mini adventure that we make up in the moment using the solo tools to sort of demonstrate how each what I unofficially call conflict arenas work. So you know there'll be a fight, there'll be a social encounter, there'll be a journey, there'll be some magic, that kind of thing. That's what I'm hoping. I don't know if I'll be able to do all that in 2 hours. So we'll see. We'll see. But that is the plan. Okay, Esteban, while you're here, Trevor, just wanted to say you have... Oops, I lost my screen. Where are we? You have radically changed my relationship with RPGs for the better. Well, that is a huge compliment. Thank you very much. Very, very cool. The Pitbull. I would definitely use it as inspo. Currently in search of a superhero game that is sim-light. Well, I can give you simulation as superhero games. That would be Hero, the Hero system. That is a game that's been out a long time. Or GURPS is another one. Although GURPS apparently struggles with higher power superhero games. I'm not a big superhero guy, so I'm not the best source on this. But Hero, as far as there's also Marvel superheroes, one of those versions. There's many. Honestly, Savage Worlds is cool too. I would use Savage Worlds, me. Hero is really crunchy. Lots of math, lots of rules. But like any well-designed crunchy game, once you learn the basics, it's very, very quick. I have not learned the basics. So it's still very intimidating. I've only played Hero once. I really liked it, but I was in the hands of a very experienced GM. Yeah, I would say look at Hero if you like that kind of rule stuff, that heft, or go with Savage Worlds because it's super fun. Alex Yeager, hello friend. Is there still a tutorial scenario included in the core book? Yes, the tutorial scenario is the starter book adventure. So originally, the starter adventure was going to be called The Witches of Grimdale. Now, because of reasons of development and evolution, it's not going to be that. The Witches of Grimdale will be released as a separate adventure on the website a little later. The starter adventure is called A Smoldering Ember. And the reason why is because when I was developing the Witches scenario, I realized it was super cool, but it wasn't really a good tutorial. It wasn't a good introductory adventure. I needed the introductory adventure to handle or at least touch on all of the main systems in the game to show it off, right? Because the starter set rules are not the full rules. They're like a slimmed down version. So that meant that I wanted to show, the big flashy parts of the game to get people interested in buying the full game. You can still run a Broken Empires game with the starter set rules just fine, but you're not going to have the character creation rules and yada yada yada. So yeah, it's an introduction. It's designed to walk you through to an extent how the game itself works. However, tutorial is not a word I would use for this because I've made no secret, and I don't in the book either, that the Broken Empires is not really designed for people new to role-playing games. It's designed for experienced role players who are looking at something with a little more rules heft to it. that doesn't mean that you can't dive into it if you are a brand new player. Like, I started with Rollmaster, so, or I didn't start, but when I was very, very young, like 9 or something, I was learning Rollmaster. So if you guys know about Rollmaster, if I, as a 9-year-old boy, could learn Rollmaster, you can learn the Broken Empires. But, so it's not really designed for beginners, so I don't want to have that hand-holding walkthrough that you get with something like the Pathfinder 2 starter adventure or even the Mines of Fendelver for D&D. Those are great adventures, but they're very like, and now this is how you roll a skill. Pick up your D20. That's the one with 20 sides on it. And you roll it. Yeah. And there's a number. Yeah. I'm not going to waste time with that. It's, hey, you know what a die looks like. Roll it. That's more my style. Okay. I'm Travis White. Hello, my friend. You're talking about Between Two Rivers. Of course you've read it. You read everything. Also read The People Across the River and Black Tongue Thief, all by the same author, but completely different reads. Awesome. I will. I love this guy. I stumbled across him on Amazon. I was like, what is this? And now I love it. Love it. All right. Winter, I'm so loving all these mechanics, shield bashing and godbound things, all just making my little paladin maiming heart happy. Haven't had money to spare yet, but as soon as I can get going all in. Awesome. Well, we will be here for you when you decide to join us. Coo. Foolcat says, Warhammer Fantasy be like, what? 33% is ample skill for someone who made a career out of sword fighting. Exactly. Guys. But then again, to be fair, Warhammer Fantasy was always, well, you're playing a scribe, or you're playing a law student, or you're playing an initiate of a priest. So you're just a bunch of regular people getting walloped by chaotic things. I love Warhammer so much. Oh my God, I can't even tell you. Okay. Adala, boy, you are just diving in hard on the rules here. Can you expand on zone descriptor use? Yes, so zones are one of those things that people love or hate. I like them. I like them enough to put them in. Honestly, I have no dog in the fight. I like hex and grid systems. I like zone systems. I like both. The reason why I go with zones is because it's just easier for me to handle things. There's a lot, if you're a GM of this game, there's a lot going on behind the screen. You got to handle a lot. And so the more I can help the GM have a more relaxed time running the game, the better. So each zone is an area on the battle mat, so to speak. Each zone can have an optional descriptor that the GM puts on. So, for example, if you're in a field, one zone might have high stalks of wheat, or sheafs of wheat, or whatever you call them. Another zone might have giant hay bale. Another zone might have old dilapidated wagon. So, what does that mean? It means that creative players can use those zones to their advantage. So, some of those zones might be rough, right? Rough footing. So, let's say that a character's under fire from a crossbowman in that field, and they're 5 zones away or whatever. The character could say, I want to dive into that zone with the high stalks of wheat to get a bonus on defending because now he can't see me. And the GM says, okay, great. That's basically how it works. It's a little like, if you're familiar with Fate, it's a little like tagging the scene. The scene? Tagging? That's not what they call it. Tagging is what they call it in Fate. Tagging the... Oh, what's it called? Aspect. Tagging the aspect. Except I don't like the economy in Fate. I don't like the fortune point thing. But I like the idea of being able to use the descriptor in a both creative narrative way and also a system way. So that's just basically how it works. Yes, still doing voice acting gigs. Zero says, so 1SL goes from 01 to 19. Oh, yes, I understand. So if you roll 1 to 19, that's 1SL. Yes, correct. So you actually have more chance of rolling 1SL than any other SL. That is absolutely true. But again, expertise. Even if you took 1 level of expertise, now your minimum is 2. So it's done. Daniel B., any thoughts about any conflict between the world building in the book and what happens with future seasons of Me, Myself, and Die? That's a very good question. No, I don't think so, because the world building we've done in the book is basically modeling Harn. So what I really like about Harn, besides everything, is that Harn, and I'm not gonna slavishly adhere to this, but the way Harn does it is they take you up to the year 720, and they never. Yes, Jason, I know it's bestiary. I say bestiary. They take you up to the year 720, and that's it. They never publish anything that happens after that. The reason is they do not want to publish something that's going to contradict what you've done in your P-Harn, in your personal Harn, right? I'm not going that hard with that, but it's still the basic idea. Basically, what I've done is I've set up a world with all of this stuff happening and with ideas about what might happen, and that's it. So it's a big world. So if I do another season of Me, Myself, and Die, it'll be in some part of the world that isn't really that developed, so that the stuff I do isn't going to interfere too much with pre-written canon or with stuff that hopefully you have established in your game. Not that that should matter, because it's our different games. But so yeah, I don't like I didn't like what they did with Forgotten Realms. I hated that. I hated the spell plague. I hated all that stuff where they reshaped the world with new editions of the game. I'm like, you've just destroyed so many GMs. I mean, again, you haven't, because there's nothing saying you have to use the new version. But, you know, we're crazy people, and we always need the latest and greatest, right? Anyway, it bugs me. It's kind of like slapping those GMs in the face, saying everything you said is garbage. It's the reason why I don't like meta plots. It's the reason why I never got into, like, the World of Darkness meta plot with the old vampire games, because, like, you don't tell me what's happening in my setting. I tell me. Anyway. Okay. Oh my goodness, that take on trolls is brilliant. Well, it's something. It's something. The orc says, wait, are we the baddies? Benjathin says, do the Broken Empire's orcs reproduce like Warhammer orcs? No, they do not. They kind of reproduce a little bit like Peter Jackson's orcs do, or rather like Peter Jackson's Uruk-hai do. They are birthed from amniotic sacs in the mountains. And no one knows why or who started that. Okay. Foolcat says, any chance of you coming over to Europe for a con? I'd love that, but no current plans. Oh, my goodness. Okay, lost my space. Here we are. Glad to see you. Thank you. Reminder for the spell example from ID to Damage. Yes. Remind me again. Catching up. Is there a grid map system for movement? No, it is based on zones. Crunch is short for number crunching. Yes, that's where I come with it. So when people say crunch, they're talking about rules. I'm like, nah, that's not really what it means. But it doesn't matter. We're all playing the same games. Working with anyone on VTT integrations. Yes, we are actively making that happen. And the more the rules get tightened, the more that can be sent off to the VTT integrator, who is working away as we speak. I cannot tell you when it's going to be released. I cannot tell you how it's going to be released. Obviously on the store at some point. But that's all I know. We are working towards it. It is happening. Okay. I'd love to see Toothache AZ. I'd love to see some one-shots with other systems. Loved your 5 parsecs and Blade Runner. Thank you for watching Blade Runner. Blade Runner is one of the best things I've done on this channel. I love it. Would love to see you play GURPS or Genesis or Cypher. GURPS I did a featureless gray plane with. Did I? No, I did a Sage's Library. I did the Fantasy Trip featureless gray plane, which is like proto-GURPS. I would love to play GURPS too. Genesis, I love Genesis on paper. I don't love it on execution. I feel like rolling all those dice and trying to interpret all of the symbols and then make those symbols work narratively in my brain is too many steps. Just me. Cypher is a really neat game. A lot of my friends hate it. I don't. I think it's cool. That would be a really good superhero game, because that's really designed for that kind of stuff. So cool. Vaughn W, time lagged, but love your description of half-orcs keeping orcs as monsters. Yeah, baby, orcs are monsters. Absolutely. Nobody's wearing a sombrero in the Broken Empires if you're an orc. You know what I mean? All right. Dungeon Monster. Just bought Vengeance Deck's book. Awesome. Cool. Got to support Scots RPG writers. That's cool. Thank you all. Very, 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 very nice. Very lovely. Jason. Oh, unite the people of the Broken Empires. We absolutely should have a bestiary. Yes. Yes. Correct. All right. D's Nuts says, zones are great, but I thought you hated everything Fate-related. No, I don't. I don't hate everything Fate-related. I hate most things Fate-related. I love the central mechanic of Fate. I love 4DF, and I love its variants. The variants from Legends of Anglaire, the D6 minus D6, I love it. That gives you you take two different D6s, and you subtract one from the other. So you get a range between -5 and +5. And it's great. I think it's so cool. I love it. I love the idea of Fate. What I don't like about Fate is the economy of pushing Fate points back and forth, and I don't like the de facto adversarial relationship that economy creates. Now, a lot of people who love the 2D20 game from Odysseus will hate me for saying this, but that is the problem I have with that system too. I really like a lot of that system, but the idea of the economy where I, as a GM, need to pay a special point to have something in the game happen to the players. No, I don't need any of that. I'm the GM. I can make that happen. That's my job to have it happen. So to me, to have that as a system thing, this doesn't really make sense. But a lot of people love it. So if you love it, awesome, great. I don't. I love a lot about Fate, and I want to love Fate, and I've tried many times, just can't do it. But I love a lot of things about it, so much so that I borrowed the concept of zones from it. Andrew Strait, forgive my ignorance, but is Broken Empire as a class-based character system or skill-based? It is a skill-based system. There are no classes. However, there are previous careers. Previous careers are the thing you did before you became a quote-unquote adventurer. Essentially, it's like... what would it be like? It would be like a little bit like Dragonbane. In Dragonbane, you have a class to start with. But after that, you're pretty much free to become whatever you want. That's like the Broken Empires, to a point. The only exception to that is Spellweaver. True Spellweavers are born, not made. So if you want to be a Spellweaver, you have to have been one from birth. You can be a Fade. A Fade is someone who just learns spells, but they'll never be quite as powerful as a true Spellweaver. But other than that, you can do whatever you want. So it is not class-based. It is not level-based. It is skill-based 100%. Okay. Catching up. Winter says, honestly, so agreed on keeping orcs monsters. I did the same in a homebrew D&D setting. Orcs used to be monsters in D&D until they became what they are today. Broken Empires, honestly, is sounding more and more like a good match for me with everything I hear. That is awesome. James, voice actor question. What's your routine for keeping your voice fit and healthy?
Ha! I wish I had one. I say about a pint of scotch and a pack of Marlboros every morning.
I've never had to worry about it. I shouldn't say never. I had to have an operation. Excuse me, as I talk about this, I get worse. I start to get like psychosomatic symptoms. I feel my throat seizing up. I had an operation done on my left vocal fold back in 2006, I want to say. And it was terrifying because there was this, I felt like I had a toothpick stuck in my throat the whole time. And finally, they scoped me, and they saw this tiny little. It wasn't a node. It wasn't from misuse. It was a cyst. It's just something that developed. And I was like, I can't go on like this. My whole world is my voice. So I had this surgeon, world famous surgeon, who said, "Well, I can get rid of it for you, but you're going to be laid up for 3 months. You won't be able to speak for 3 months." And I was like, "Oh my God." And he said, there's a chance. Of course, there's a chance it might not work. And I was like, what? And he said, well, here's the situation. There's an 80% chance you're going to be happy. There's about a 15% chance that it'll be better, but you're not going to be totally happy. And there's a 5% chance that you'll never work again. And I was like, oh, God. I said, this operation, isn't this what happened to Julie Andrews? He said, yeah, I didn't do that operation. So anyway, it went fine, but I was out for 3 months. Luckily, the Actors Union was able to supplement my income while I couldn't work, which was awesome. This is way back, and it's back in Canada too. But that was scary. And then I got my voice back, and it was all good. Back to the races. All right. Jamie Cage, can you give an example of reality hitting back in game terms if you try to weave a spell a little too big for your britches? Yeah, so this will go back to the other person whose name I forget was asking me about doing the spell. Let's have a look at that. Okay, let me pull up my thing here. So, Not going to go into too much detail here, but the basics of weave magic. A spellweaver has skill in bind and strand. A bind is how you manipulate the universe. A strand is what aspect of the universe you manipulate. Okay? So there's 5 binds: change, conjure, control, destroy, and witness. There's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 strands. So for example, you want to huck a fireball at somebody. Well, that's going to be conjure, which is create, fire. You are conjuring fire. Okay? How does it work? Well, there's bounded laws of magic. Certain things can be done, certain things can't be done. Okay? A bunch. There's something called the law of mystery, which means not everything can be explained. Sometimes there's just stuff that happens that no one understands, including the spellweavers. That is for all those weirdo things that happen in the world that there is no explanation for. How did they build this giant teleportation tunnel through the mountains? Nobody knows. Lost the time. There you go. Get out of jail free card for the GM to create interesting things without having to explain everything, right? The law of limitation, here's the things that are bound by reality. These are the bounds of weave magic you can't do. Like, you can't reverse the effects of aging. You can't affect the sun or the moon or any of the heavenly bodies. Yada, 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 yada. The law of resistance. If you're affecting a target, that target gets a resistance. A living, breathing, sentient, moving target, right? An inanimate object doesn't get a resistance. But if you're targeting someone with the spell, they get a resistance. And that's going to be based on what the spell is. It's commonly going to be willpower, endurance, or, dodge, but not necessarily. It depends on the spell. The spell could do something that you use your perception to evade. Who knows? So that's that. The law of logic just means one thing must lead to another. This is the law of logic you use to craft spells. Right? Like, one thing must lead to the other logically so that you can create a chain of events. Also, requisites just means that some spells are going to deal with 2 different things. Like, some spells, if you want to, turn a man into a frog. Well, that's change, but then what's the strand? Is it body, which is man, humans, or is it animal, beast? Well, that would be a case of, well, it's both, which means that you take the lowest of the 2 and one becomes a requisite for the other. You need skill in the other one at all to cast the spell. The law of reaction. This is the big one. The weave punishes those who cannot control it. Magic is literally tearing apart the fabric of reality. So when you do more ostentatious things with magic, the weave reacts. The weave says, no, you don't. That's modeled by something called magnitude. The higher the magnitude, the higher the crazy town the spell is. There's 4 levels from 0 to no, not what I'm saying. There's 4 levels. Discreet, subtle, offensive, and vulgar. This is basically a discreet spell is almost indistinguishable from happenstance, beneath notice. Okay? A subtle spell, it's unusual but easily explained. An offensive spell is highly unusual, but could still be explained, and then a vulgar spell that's impossible. So depending on the description of the spell that the player gives, that will trigger the magnitude level, and that magnitude is going to make it harder to control, okay? So what is crucial is the intention of the spell. What do I want to do with the spell? That is something that the player really has to think about and kind of talk out a little bit with the GM. Sometimes it's going to be obvious. But if not, that's what you do. You say, well, I really think that this is the thing. Okay. And then you come to a consensus. Oh, that's going to be destroy air. Great. Magnitude 2, destroy air. Whatever you do. Okay. And then you bind the strand. Binding the strand is casting the spell. You know your magnitude for sure. Then you look at the effect. What's the effect? What do I want it to do? I want to turn a man into a frog? Well, that's the effect. The effect is transformation, right? We look at the target, range, duration, and magnitude. That becomes the total cost of the spell. Those are the success levels you must generate in order to control the spell. The casting of the spell is based on your bind skill. The controlling of the spell is putting those SLs together with the SLs from the strand and your resolve, if you want to spend to make up the difference, and magical threads. Threads are magic items like the wizard staff or the wand or the amulet, all that stuff. And if you can mitigate the difference between what you rolled or what you earned and what the spell cost, then there is no weave reaction. But if you cannot pay for the spell, and this has nothing to do with whether you succeeded or not. Remember, that's based on your buying skill. Succeeding and controlling are two different things. I could succeed a spell, but if it's way too powerful for me, I'm not going to be able to control it. If you do not have enough SLs to meet the total cost, then whatever that difference is becomes a modifier on a D20 roll on the weave reaction table. And high is crazy bad. So, yeah, that's how it happens. So a magnitude, let's say it's a subtle spell. Well, that would add +1 success level, okay? Let's say the target is one individual. Well, that's 2 SLs for one individual. So we're up to 3. Range is close range. That's another 2. We're up to 5. The duration is as long as you concentrate, let's say. So that's up to 7. And yeah, then the effect could have various costs, right? So I don't know, it's a 5 SL spell, which means now the total SL, the TC, the total cost, is 12. So you roll your skill, and whatever SLs you get, that goes towards paying for the spell. It also sets the resistance, by the way. So if you have a skill of 50 and you roll 42, that is the number that the victim has to resist against. So it's all opposed rolls, right? So then, yeah, so you've got a 12 SL, you roll a 42, you've got 4 SLs versus 12. That's a difference of 8, but you've got a strand value of 5, let's say. Okay, now you're only short 3. Great. You've got no threads, but you say, I'm going to spend 3 resolve. Great. You spend 3 resolve and no weave reaction. But if you didn't have the resolve to spend, or you chose not to, or the spell was more powerful than you could handle, then you roll D20 with that modifier, and that will tell you many, not always awful things, but crazy things that are going to be, potentially bad. That's magic, basically. Sounds a little complex. And it is, but it's not really that complex. This is like every other thing in this game. Once you internalize the basics of it, it's like nothing. Boom. My playtesters, they look at the spells, or not the spells, they look at the magic system, and at first they're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. But after they've cast 2 spells, they're like, yeah, I got it. Okay, it's going to be this, duration, this, target, this. That's 15 SL. Okay, I rolled. Boom. Ooh, boy, I'm short 3 even after resolve expenditure. Okay, this D20 plus 3. Boom. There it is. It's cool. It's cool. But it's very open. So it really requires mature players. It really requires, like rules lawyer min-maxer guys out to break the game, go play something else. This is not for you. But if you're into, really, really sinking your teeth into, magic and the various things you can try with it, then this is great. We love the magic system. It's super fun. Okay, well, that was a big explanation. My goodness me. Let's see where we're at. Okay, how crunchy is Broken Empires versus Warhammer 4th? I think my game is a lot easier than Warhammer 4th. There's probably as many details, but I think mine is easier to keep track of. But, you know. What is your favorite rule for tanks? I don't understand that question. Tanks with cannons and treads? There are no tanks in Broken Empires. What supplemental resources are you thinking about adding to the game? Cards, maps, the like. Well, we already have a bunch of maps included in the starter set. We're still thinking about that. We're still working out that kind of stuff. It's going to be harder to do that kind of stuff, though, with the tariffs. It's going to be much easier for us to produce books. But miniatures or little tchotchkes or stuff like that, that's going to become very expensive with the tariff regime that is not going anywhere anytime soon. So, yeah, I don't know. Magnificent Devil says, requiring being able to think logically is going to disqualify a lot of players I know. Yeah, that could be. Thank you, James. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Daniel B says, it's like reaching in Mage with paradoxes and whatnot. But less restrictive. Yeah. Mage was an inspiration. Mage and Ars Magica, for sure. Okay. Heyo. Thanks for all the playthrough with your gameplay with Mythic. Really helped out and love your acting. So fun. Awesome. Thank you for watching. Okay. Jamie says, what I'm hearing is if you're a spell weaver, you better be good at other stuff as well, which is nice because I've come to hate D&D Magic near the end of a 9-year campaign I'm currently in. Yes and no. You can use magic to do a lot of stuff, but like you can use magic to give yourself protection and armor, and you can create magic weapons and all that stuff. But remember that you're probably going to have to spend your resolve to do that, and resolve is a finite resource. This isn't D&D where you take a short rest and you memorize all your magic again. You only have so much resolve, and resolve only comes back when you rest, and you can't always rest. It depends on the hex you're in. It depends on the situation you're in, and there's rules for that in the travel section. So resolve is a precious resource. So wizards are very powerful and very they have a lot of utility for a while, and then they're a guy. So yeah, it helps to be good at something, but if you husband your resources and your resolve, you can stretch that out a bit, right? What I've always hated is, a wizard can't use a sword. I remember when I first started playing D&D, and all I had in my head was Gandalf, right? I read Lord of the Rings. He was using, was it Glamdring? Was that his sword? Or the other one? I can't remember. Whatever. He was using his sword. And I was like, but I can't, my wizard in D&D can't use a sword? But Gandalf uses a sword. What do you mean my cleric can't use edged weapons? Now I know why. Now I know why those rules existed. It's a balance issue. And also Gary Gygax's idea about what a cleric should be. But it doesn't matter. It was a balance issue with the sword thing. I hate that. I balance my game very differently, right? It's based on skills. How it works, if you're a spellweaver, you've only got so many skill points. You're probably going to want to put them into magic as much as you can. You can put some into other stuff, but then you're not a very good wizard. So, it's up to you. It's up to you, man. You can have those battle mages wading into battle with their armor and their sword and casting spells. That is possible. It is possible. Brickamass, how hard will it be to stop improving the rules at one point? At what point would you say, that's it, we can stop here? I talked about this at the beginning of the stream. Very hard. But at some point, you just have to say, that's it, I'm stopping. No work of art, no creative work ever is finished. It's just stopped by its creator. It's at the point where the creator says, that's enough, we're done. It's got to go to the world. I am that close to being able to say that, but I really won't be able to say that until the day we send it to the printers. Because once we send it to the printers, that's it. Those are the rules. And yes, there's probably going to be errata. We are working so hard to avoid that. And we have a few other ideas on how to do that as well. But there's going to be errata. It's inevitable. A 500-page book with a tiny little team like us, there's going to be errata. I hate that. We all hate that. But it's going to happen. We want as little errata as possible. But what we can live with, the occasional typo errata. Okay. What we can't live with is, the magic system doesn't work. We need to replace it. So none of that's going to happen. I'm very, very comfortable with the game right now. I really like it right now, which is a good place to be. Okay. Foolcat, speaking of keeping track, will the Broken Empires have combat statuses like stunned, shaken, disoriented, blinded, etc.? Sort of. Sort of. Not statuses like you'd use them in D&D, but there are, because it's a skill-based game, there are skill penalties for certain things, right? So being blind gives you skill penalties to anything that you need sight for. Stuff like that. Just make sure the errata doesn't need errata. Exactly. And on that note, I'm going to bring us to an end here. Thank you so much, guys. We've been at this for an hour and 39 minutes. That was awesome. Thank you. I'm going to endeavor to do more of these and to talk about other stuff, because we didn't get to the state of RPGs. We didn't get to the tariffs. We didn't get to any of that, which is fine. I don't need to get into all that stuff. But I just wanted to say hello, let you know I'm still alive, still here, still moving forward. I'm definitely going to finish Season 4. That is in the works very soon. Game is going great. If you have signed up for the game already or bought the game already, you're getting updates. If you haven't, there's still time. Go to the store, thebrokenempiresrpg.com, if you're interested, and you can do pre-orders there. Other than that, thanks, guys, and I will talk at you later. Okay.